Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. I'm excited to bring you today's show. It's part 1, and next week is part 2. I thought we could piggyback on radical remission. I'm hoping you enjoyed last week's episode about radical remission. And this week and next week are focused on some of those actions you can take to prevent disease in the first place. And this is a physical aspect, but it's a very important one. So I hope you enjoy today's show and next week's show with Cindy Folsom. I will let you know that we just started a manifestation challenge. So for those of you that are already in the group, you are welcome to participate. If you have never done a 30-day manifestation challenge with us, it is free. Well, this one is. And you can come on over to jjflazanes.com/30day. That's 30DAY. The link will be in the show notes. You do have to answer some questions on Facebook and match your email to the email that we have in the registration before being let into the group, because I'm very protective about our manifestation challenge group. I want to make sure that the people that are in there are people who know about law of attraction, who understand what we talk about on this show, and it stays a safe place for you to explore and to grow and to use and be held accountable to using the law of attraction in your everyday life. So Cindy Folsom has worked for over 20 years in the health and wellness field throughout Culver City, Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, Santa Monica, South Bay, and Vancouver, Canada. Her certification is in colon hydrotherapy and clinical nutrition, and that gave her a foundation of knowledge from which to create a unique and multifaceted approach for each client. She is certified at the advanced level by the International Association for Colon Hydrotherapy, and she's also certified in clinical nutrition. She has given colonics to hundreds of men and women in Los Angeles over the past 12 years and has been amazed at the health benefits they have experienced. When toxins are removed from the body via colonics, people feel lighter, have less cravings, and many report sleeping better, just to name a few of the benefits. I hope you enjoyed today's show. So today's show has been an idea I've had for a long time, and I haven't done it because I thought, well, if I share about colonics on the show, who am I going to tell you to go to? Because I recognize that you are listening to this all around the world, and you're not all going to be able to see Cindy. Now, that is not the best reason for me to keep this information from you. So I'm now committed to helping you, along with having Cindy tell us how you can, by the end of this show, and this will probably be a 2-part episode, by the end of the next show, where you can and how to look for someone who would be right for you. And again, I don't really think that there's so many colon hydrotherapists out there that you're going to be, there's like 20 to choose from. I think I looked up colon hydrotherapist in the area and didn't find too many. In fact, I found you online.
Okay.
Yeah. So first, let's start with a little bit of your story, Cindy, and why and how you got into becoming a colon hydrotherapist.
Yeah. My entire life, I was very interested in learning ways to be healthy. As a teenager, I had suffered some pretty bad acne. So I was always thinking there's probably a way of changing what I eat or changing something in my lifestyle that may help to clear my skin. When I was in my early 20s, I just happened upon a book that was called Tissue Cleansing Through Bowel Management. And it was all about how this chiropractor was using colonics with nutrition and herbs to cure different skin conditions. And he had pictures of that in the book. And I thought, wow, this is something that might help me. And so it wasn't until about 10 years after that I finally got brave enough to try a colonic myself. And I was referred by a friend, and she was actually turning 60. And she said to me one day, I feel so much energy. I feel like I'm 14 again. And I thought to myself, I want that. And so I asked her what she was doing, and it was really cute. She said, don't tell my husband. It's my little beauty secret. I'm doing colonics. And that's sort of how the whole journey started.
But what were you doing before that made you think, I want to do this for a living?
That's a good question. I was working in the mental health field as the administrative director of a residential treatment center. And although I really loved that work, I always knew I wanted to be a little bit more hands-on with healing work. And when I was doing that job, I would refer clients to go get colon hydrotherapy. And it was really helpful for a lot of the things that they were going through. So while I was doing that work, I was training to do the colonics. And then I just decided at one point it was the right time to make the leap and open my own business.
Awesome. So Cindy is sitting with me in my living room. Just full disclosure here. So in case you hear Luna, who's coming in and out of the cat door, or a little side noise from Domino or something, Cindy did ask me on my last colonic, "Hey, do you want to record while you're having a colonic?" And I said, "I don't think I can focus that well. Actually, I'm really focused on wanting to release and relax and breathe through any air bubbles and all the things you're going to learn about." So she offered to come to me, and it was the easiest way for me not to have to get her to get a new mic and figure out the whole Zoom thing. So here we are. So ignore any background noise that I can't cut out of editing. All right. So now you've had colonics. You feel great. You've transitioned into doing it full time. And let's just start on the business side, starting your practice. Like, how was that for you, starting a business?
Yeah, it was an organic process that happened. When I was doing the training, I decided, I'm going to eventually open my business. So I made a website. I thought that was kind of a fun project to do. And I had planned when I first started to work for as many people in town as I could. So I did that. I worked, one of the first jobs I had was with a medical doctor. He was an OBGYN who had a healing center in Beverly Hills. So I did some of my training with him and some of my internship and eventually worked there. And then I also went on to work with some other of the holistic practitioners in town, probably for about 3 years. And it was at that point I seemed to be generating a lot of interest on my website. So I thought, I should, take that next leap and find a place of my own.
That sounds very organic. And the lesson here for any of you who want to start a business, when you can joint venture and affiliate and leverage the people around you to help with referrals when you first get started, it's a great way to build a practice versus just opening up your shingle and wondering where the business is going to come from. So you were very smart in how you decided to work with people who could refer to you, and you worked with them. And then as you built up a clientele, then you went on your own. So lesson number 1, just thinking about my mastermind clients right now, and all those of you that are signing up to take the Empowerment Strategist beta conversation, or those of you who already have, because by this point we've probably already filled the group, that starting a business isn't just putting out a shingle and then renting a space, printing some business cards, building a website, and hoping you're going to get clients. You have to be able to build relationships with people, build some trust, get referrals from people who are important, like doctors or whomever people will trust, especially in this situation. So when you decided and you raised your hand, you said, "I'm going to be doing colonics," did you have any friends or family that thought, "What the heck are you doing?"
I did. And let me just touch back on one thing that you were talking about for your mastermind clients. I did also work with a life coach when I was making that transition to working for someone else to doing my own thing. And that was extremely helpful in giving me the courage and organization to make that step. And when I did first start, I remember telling my grandmother what I was planning to do. And every time I saw her, she said, "Oh, you can do something better than that." She was kind of freaked out by it. She didn't really understand how much it helps people, and that was the piece that was so rewarding to me. She was thinking about the nuts and bolts, I guess, of the process.
Right. The dirty word, which we're going to say many times, like, holy shit. All right. So let's start with some of the frequently asked questions that people have about colonics. And actually, before we get there, because that's probably what they're thinking. First, let's explain what it is. What is colon hydrotherapy?
That's a great place to start. A lot of people have never heard of it. They don't know what it is. It's basically the infusion of warm water into the colon through the rectum, and we soften up the loose stool in the colon and we flush it out. It is a way of, if you will, giving your colon, or your large intestine as it's also called, a bath. You take a shower every day. This is a once in a while thing that you do to release old residue from your colon. And it's a lot about colon health. People are thinking a lot about that these days, and they want to stay healthy.
Yeah, well, I did my first colonic, it was probably before I was married. So we're talking about 15 years ago. I was introduced to a colon hydrotherapist, and she had a little place in Manhattan Beach. It might have been her home. Whether she owned it or rented it, I don't know. And then in the front room, she put a machine. She had worked for a spa, but decided to go on her own. And I don't remember if I went in for 3. I feel like I did more than 1, but I also know I don't really remember being schooled on why I knew why I was doing it. Because again, if you just think of that sort of logical common sense, cleaning out your pipes, cleaning out the lint trap, cleaning, right? Like to me, there's sort of a little bit of an obvious cleansing process for the body, but that's me, and I'm weird. But for the average person who thinks, well, why do I need that? Doesn't my digestion do that already? What would you say to that?
I would say we take our car in every 3 months pretty religiously to get an oil change. And that's just because it's common knowledge that things are building up, residue is building up. Not everyone is eating a really healthy, clean diet. We have a lot of different preservatives, chemicals, and things that we're ingesting. We have a lot of stress, and we have things coming into our bodies from the outside environment with pollution. And so all of those things together sometimes make our digestion not function super efficiently. And that's when we get things happening like bloating, not completely eliminating, and things start backing up and building up into the body. And our instrument of our body tends to start to not function as optimally as it would if the pipes are clean, so to speak.
I was reading Suzanne Summers' Toxic book recently. I got it because I'm pretty convinced that in this current place I'm living, that there's some mold. And it may not be a huge issue. It may just be in certain places, but because I've been having weird, let's say, reactions, like blowing my nose, which I'm sensitive to dairy. I'm gluten-free. There may be cross-contamination, but I'm not that sensitive. Like I have no allergies. And even when tested, I do have sensitivities, but I would wake up and my nose would, even just this past week when I did a fasting mimicking diet, there's zero dairy, there's zero, there's a little bit of sugar, but very, very, very little. It's not every day. And honestly, this round, it's probably my 5th time doing this fasting mimicking diet. I mean, I was under calories every day. Like it comes in a packet, you follow it. But like there were 2 days where I was almost completely water fasting or tea fasting for the day. So, and I'm still waking up with congestion. So here I'm thinking this is either environmental, and I do live near the airport, so there is definitely some environmental things happening. But I also think my cats have had some reactions to things while living in this new place, and thank God we're moving. So we'll be moving very soon. But I'm wondering, thinking mold. But so I'm looking through Toxic for this mold issue, and I come across something about colonics somewhere in the detox process, and a naturopath making a suggestion and saying that if you want to really clean yourself out and kind of give yourself a jump start to any ailments, any issues that you're having in your body, he suggested doing that. He says the number one recommendation I make to people is 5 colonics in 2 weeks. And you will feel completely different. And it's also really cleaning out, again, all the toxic residue and things that we have in our body. Now, I've also heard and read in other places that we're all walking around carrying anywhere from 5 pounds to 10 or even up to maybe 30 pounds of undigested things or unreleased things in our colon. What would you say to that?
Wow, that's a lot to touch upon. Let me start with the mold and the environmental aspects of our lives. I think that is a huge thing to consider with our health. I read something recently that said that 80% of the toxins that go into our body come in through our nose. We're constantly breathing, and especially at night, we're usually in our bedrooms for 8 hours or so. And that is just something like a constant IV drip of something going into your body. If you do have mold or formaldehyde or something off-gassing in your home, that's a big deal. I actually lived in a moldy apartment for a couple of years myself, and it led to all sorts of really weird health issues. And at that time, I didn't know I had mold. And I thought, wow, why is my digestion so off? Why am I so gassy all the time? That hadn't been happening before. So I thought it was maybe something I was eating that I was allergic to. And then surprise, surprise, a couple months down the road, we found out that one of the walls that was opened up after a flood had all this black mold in it that was very toxic. So that can do really strange things to humans' health, to animals' health. So definitely you'd want to get that looked at as a piece of your health puzzle that you're trying to solve. I think more people have mold and different things than they realize.
Oh, absolutely. And I plan on doing a whole mold report in the new house and having that taken care of, hopefully before we move in, if possible, if there's anything. And again, it's something to pay attention to. Black mold is deadly, and it can absolutely erode your health over time if you're not aware of it. And at least we're moving to a little bit of a drier climate. Not that I'm in a, completely moist one here, but we are closer to the ocean. So, but I said that thinking that that was one of the reasons I've come back to you to have colonics. I mean, again, idea is like, I know I need to be cleaned out. I want to detox. It's been a fun COVID party year, but it's time to eliminate all of the backup stuff that I know I've been ingesting and breathing and all the things. But I will say, before I came to you, the reason why I came the very first time, I was dealing with the fibroid conversation. And that's so, to go back to the point of the question of the 5 to 30 pounds of unreleased, undigested, if you will, things in your colon. I thought about that at the very end of my experience with carrying all these fibroids. I literally had no more room. So I thought, what if I go get a colonic in case I have any backed up stuff? I can create some more room and a little bit less pressure in my abdomen/uterine area. So that's how I found you. I had been asking people, and really no one around here had a referral for me. So I looked you up online and came, and you're lovely and I liked you very much. And so I came back. It took me a year, but now I'm super committed to this process since meeting you. So let's go back to how much is the average person have still stuck in their colon on a daily basis?
That is a great question. And yes, we were taught that anyone can have 5 up to 40 pounds of waste material in the colon. The colon is a very stretchy organ. So sometimes you can even be having a bowel movement every day, but you're not having a full elimination of what's in there. And part of the reason for that is most people are dehydrated. They are simply not drinking enough water on a day-to-day basis. So a lot of the material in the colon is hard and clay-like, and it's not readily able to come out. So definitely, sometimes people come for sessions and it's the tiniest of women and they see what comes out because the instrumentation that we use for this process has a little view window where we can see what's being released. We can get some great information about your digestion, if you're chewing, how things are breaking down or not. But people are always absolutely blown away when they have that full release of the colon, just how much is stored inside. And these are people where you would just look and say, where are they storing all this? How is this possible? They're so tiny. And I've been doing this for 13 years and I'm still amazed at what I see come out of people on a daily basis. And when that happens, at how light and how energized and amazing they feel afterwards. So yeah, that stuff can really bog us down when we don't even know it's there.
And what has been so eye-opening and a bit of a punch in the face for me has been that I have yet to experience the full release. See, it wasn't until I had re-signed up for a package of sessions with you and on the second one asked what to expect. I was never really educated, which is another reason why we're doing the show, because a lot of you may have heard of a colonic, but you don't know why you would do one. And until you understand its benefits and the fact that most of you will know that you're dehydrated. Even when you're drinking, and it's funny, and I know I'm probably more dehydrated than normal because in this past year, I definitely have increased the wine. Absolutely. I have a wine podcast. We are having a good time. I am drinking a lot of wine. I mean, not every day, but I'm also not drinking 2 or 3 times more of the water to make up for what I'm losing with the wine. And I only drink a cup of coffee every day, and it's usually just one. So I don't think it's me dehydrating myself through coffee. But again, and I think if I wouldn't drink the wine, I probably would be better. But this is the case of choice. If I'm going to drink more wine, I know I'm going to be more dehydrated, then I need to triple my water intake to replace that plus. And I haven't been doing that. So I have been amazed at how long this is taking for me, like how dehydrated my colon is. It's almost a little embarrassing that I call myself a health expert and I have a dehydrated colon, but I know now why. I get it. And so I'm thinking, and this is me, and I eat pretty well and take care of myself. So the rest y'all who aren't doing so great, you got a lot of backed up shit literally in your colon, okay? So if you're having chronic things happening to you, your digestion is off. Yes, it may be food related. You have leaky gut. You have any symptoms that you can't figure out. I would also recommend that you find someone to work with and have the 5 colonics in 2 weeks. So I'm not going to tell you how many. I've done a bunch and I'm going to continue until I have that freaking full release because I'm ready for it and I'm prime. But unfortunately, there's been times where I couldn't do it close enough together and I've gone back to, let's say, not amazing eating, or I've had the glass of wine. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this show to you today also is because you know me, I like to provide balance. And sometimes it's about choice, and it's not an all or nothing, and it's figuring out psychologically what works best for you. So if you're someone who wants to get healthier and you keep telling yourself, well, I should eat better, or let's say you decide you're going to have a colonic. Prior to this conversation and even this last week, I have been wanting to go to the We Care Spa forever, and I've told you this.
Yes.
And the We Care Spa is not inexpensive. It's about $1,600 for 3 days right now. And I don't know how many colonics you get. And I know they give you a whole prep sheet like a week before, and you're drinking prune juice and you're eliminating foods. Okay. It's an ordeal. It's a big idea. It's a big thing. And if you're willing to do all that work and do the week prep before you get there, or 2 weeks, or whatever it is, you will probably have a very good experience when you go. But if you're someone who's like, I'm not going to do all of that, I'll do a little bit of that, but I'm going to go, you won't have the same results because you didn't do the prep work. So now I'm like, oh my God, thank God I didn't pay for that and I didn't go yet, because I wouldn't have gotten the results that I wanted to. So I'm paying a fraction of it now, working with you and doing all the things on my own at my own pace. So for those of you that have really poor digestion or health or want to lose some weight, I see that will Colonics help me lose weight is on your frequently asked questions. And the answer is?
In combination with changing your nutrition and amping up the exercise, yes, it helps any program that you're doing with that.
But if someone's never had a colonic, they don't eat awesome, they have digestive issues, they have inflammation, may possibly have leaky gut, and there's someone who has 30 pounds of shit in them, and they do a colonic or a series of them to get the full release. I mean, can someone step on the scale and have a lot less in them?
They certainly can. I mean, sometimes you won't notice it if you weigh yourself right before a session and right after. But if you've been doing a cleanse or changing your diet for several weeks, I mean, I have had it happen where somebody comes in who's been doing maybe a 28-day of eating really healthy, doing a couple colonics a week. And I think at the 20th day of that, she weighed herself before the colonic and after, and there was 5 pounds difference. She had lost 5 pounds of poop basically in that session and having a complete release, which was pretty amazing. Usually people will see maybe a half a pound or a pound at the most. But if they are doing kind of the full Monty of the nutrition, drinking a lot of water, maybe taking some herbs to also keep the elimination happening in between the sessions, you can really see those dramatic results sometimes.
All right. So I have yet to have my full release, but I will say that every time it gets a little bit better, and I'm going to keep on keeping on. So the question that I asked Cindy, does everyone have it? And you said?
Most of the time, yes. If they stick with it and eat the way I give the guidelines to eat, yes, they will get to that magic session where they have that full release. And it really just depends on the person, on their colon, on what they're eating, on what their lifestyle is in that moment. Some people hit it with 3 sessions. Some people, it's more than that. I remember I had a person who had a back surgery once and was taking some painkillers that were very constipating. And that person was just feeling very dire because they were not eliminating at all. And it was very uncomfortable. And I kept encouraging him, come back. You will hit that point where you'll have the full release. And it was on the 7th session for him. And literally he walked in that day and his skin looked so gray and so unhealthy. And when he had the full release, it was the equivalent of so many bowel movements. He walked out that day with a pink color in his skin and he felt amazing. And he was so happy that he stuck it out, because sometimes people say, oh, it didn't happen. I've done 4 sessions. It's not going to happen for me. It will happen. Just stick with it. You'll get there. And you just have to be persistent, hydrate, eat well. And, the nutrition part is 50% of the benefit and what makes the actual process work amazingly.
So, all right, let's say I'm getting to my full release, which I will be, because I am going to be committed to it. And I don't think it's going to be much longer. And even if it is, that's fine. I'm committed. Doesn't matter, because I want this shit out of me. Okay, so then after I get through this, then the question became, I asked you the other day, how much should you do it? Like, what's the regimen for somebody? And I know that answer is going to be, it depends. But let's give some generalizations about how often someone would do this and when it's absolutely necessary and then when they don't need it.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is different for everyone. Sort of a general answer for that would be, if the person has never done it before, you definitely want to do a series of 3 sessions in a week or 10 days. And that is for the healthy person who does not have any issues, who's eliminating regularly. If they do that and follow my nutritional guidelines, often they will have that full release, and then maybe come after that for once a month maintenance. That helps keep things working well, people feeling light and good, and the digestion working well, keeps the cravings at bay. A lot of people say that this helps reduce sugar cravings and cravings for different things. That's for the healthy person. I have people who want to lose a lot of weight, so they would do more sessions initially, maybe 5 to 10 sessions, a bit closer together. And everybody has their own regime and thing that they're doing. Some people know exactly what they want to do, and maybe they want to see me once a year. And that's okay too. I sort of work together with people, and we sort of decide, what are you trying to achieve? How is this working? And we build out the program from there. But I have a lot of people that do the once a month, and they basically say that just keeps them on track. That keeps the bloating at bay. That keeps them excited about eating healthy, because they're like, oh yeah, I remember, I can feel great. So it's very, very motivating to feel lighter almost immediately. And it's one of the few sort of healthy modalities where you do it and you can feel a palpable difference right away. And that gets people really excited about doing the other things in their healthy lifestyle. Oh, okay, I feel great. I have a little more energy to exercise. Oh, now I'm really excited that I'm eating healthy. I'm going to do something even healthier. Maybe start adding some juices to my nutrition. So it really depends. And sometimes, like I say, I see people once a year, once a month, once every 5 years. Don't let it go that long. But
well, if they're self-directing, or is this once a year after having a full release?
Yeah, some people I see once a year. Some people, it just really depends. But I myself do a cleanse at the change of season. Well, I will do 3 colonics to 5 colonics, change up my diet, do some sort of herbal cleanse with it. And I average myself to do this once a month. And that feels good. It feels right. If I have a month where I feel like I don't need it, I'll skip it.
Okay. Well, let's start with now the thing that probably people are wondering. They're like, okay, I understand why I should do it. Why it would be good for me, but does it hurt?
That has to be the number one question that I am asked. And the answer is no, it does not hurt. It's very, I would say, somewhat more comfortable than people imagine it to be. I think the scary part in people's imagination is, when the tube goes in, is that going to be really painful? It's not at all. The person themselves is putting it in. I help. It's a couple second thing that happens. Then you're turned over on your back. You're covered. It's a very discreet process. And sometimes during the session, you can get a little bit of discomfort. If you have gas, you might feel some gas bubbles, but usually it's not too bad. And people, when they come for the first time, are always really nervous about that. And I usually tell them, you're going to be nervous until this is all over. And almost every time they say, oh, that wasn't bad at all. And it was actually a lot more comfortable than I thought.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you my experience. I'm the person that if you tell me to do something because it's good for me, I don't really care what the comfort level is. I'll just do it. But I know that, again, I'm weird. So I'm also super committed to my health. And so for those of you that let your discomfort or fear get in the way of your health, this might be something that will help you get over that for trying a colonic. And again, I would recommend don't do one. If you've never had it, start with 3 and shoot for the goal of having a full release. Because once you do it the first time, I mean, I think you'll get excited because, I mean, seriously, you're looking at this tube of shit coming out of you and you're like, oh my God, that was in me. And that's exciting, like to feel lighter. I mean, because you do feel a little bit lighter no matter how much comes out, just because of, again, the cleansing and the hydrating of the colon. It's like there is a feeling that you'll get when you're done, and you will want to do more because you'll want to know, I mean, just psychologically knowing that you have, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit more. So, because I wanted to understand this also, because I'm seeing, like, for the last couple, I've seen a lot come out, but we're not done yet. And so it's like, okay, well, how do you know when it's done, and how does it stay there, and why doesn't it come out? I mean, I know I've done some Dr. Schultz colon cleanses where I will take some of the pills and I'm literally peeing my poop. So I'm thinking, well, I have to be clean because what I had is coming out as liquid. So how could anything be stuck in there still?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can be having a bowel movement every day. You can be having a loose bowel movement every day, and there's still that hard material that's on the walls of the colon. The other thing about this is it's not sort of 1 + 1 = 2. We get everything out in one time when we sit on the toilet. So with colon hydrotherapy, the reason you do multiple sessions is this is a kickoff of a cleanse for the rest of your whole body, your tissues, your organs, and your cells. And what happens the first time you come, you release something from the colon. And the other body parts and organs recognize that. And your liver, for example, feels like, oh, there's room in the colon. I can start to dump some of my toxins into the colon. And then when you continue to eat really clean and healthy and drink a lot of water in those days in between, your other tissues, your other cells and organs also start responding to that initial session. And the way that I tell you to eat is a way that keeps that cleansing of the cells going in between. So all of that is downloading into your colon in between. So this is really a process versus a moment where we're getting everything. It's like downloading little by little into the colon. So each additional time you come, you can release more. Your body doesn't ever just say, okay, I can release everything all at once. It comes in waves. It's just like in the session. Sometimes you notice, wow, a lot is coming out. And other times the colon's kind of taking a break and not much is happening. And then you have a big release again. So taking the Dr. Schultz and different herbal products is a great idea because it really does help to break up those harder stools that are in there. And it's definitely part of the story and can enhance any of the sessions that you're doing. You don't have to take herbs while you're doing colonics, but it can really amplify the results. And the goal of colon hydrotherapy is to cleanse the full length of that 5.5 feet of your colon. And that is a bit of a process. Also, sometimes it's hard for people to let go. The whole thing about colonics is about letting go. And on every level, emotionally, mentally, physically, sometimes that's hard because we all have pretty busy lives. We have a lot of demanding things that we do. And it takes a moment to kind of start unwinding and be able to let go. And some people just don't feel comfortable letting go, and eliminating. That's a hard thing to do. So that's a piece of the puzzle as well. It gets easier to let go once your body becomes more familiar with this process. And even in the first couple of colonics, really what's happening is your body is learning how to let go, how to do this process. And, that takes a moment too. And the way that we really distinguish, like, have we gotten there? Have we come to the piece de la resistance of I've had a complete elimination? Well, it's really twofold. Because of the equipment that we use, we see what comes out. And when you have a release that is literally tube after tube after tube of dark brown, muddy, sludgy stuff, you will walk out of there feeling like you're walking on a cloud. And you will notice in the days that follow that colonic, you will feel a shift. Something has transformed in my body. Either you have more energy, or you're eliminating better, or you're sleeping better, or you feel less anxiety. These are all benefits that people tell me they feel after they have those complete releases. So it's really coupled with what we see and even more importantly, how you feel. Has something transformed? And I always tell people too, don't come in for one session. I personally feel like it's a waste of money. If you've never done colonics before and you only do one session, you're just going to be scratching the surface. You're just barely going to be learning how to take a colonic and getting a little bit hydrated. And yes, maybe you'll see some stuff come out, but it's not going to be transformative unless you've been like eating raw food and juicing for a couple weeks before that. Sometimes I do see a full release if people have already done some really major prep work.
Oh, this is going to keep going because there's so much. Because I want you to be prepared, guys, when you reach out to find somebody. I want you to decide. So Cindy and I had a conversation on my last colonic. I had a decent release, but it still wasn't the full release. And I was like, okay, I'm coming back. And I said, but between now and then, it's a week. And because I didn't schedule ahead of time, so I didn't have any space. We couldn't match up our schedules. And I said, well, I have a happy hour on Tuesday. And she's like, well, if you can lay off the alcohol between now and then, because your body shuts down on the detoxing process. And I said, well, it's actually, and it's a something to whine about happy hour that we're doing on Clubhouse. So it's actually a public, engagement kind of happy hour, and it's business. And I said, so I'm not going to do that. But I also want to talk about that because it is something where it's not an all or nothing. If you are not willing to change your diet, then start doing colonics, right? There is no like, oh, well, I'm not going to bother to do a colonic if I'm not willing to change my diet. No, this is one step, a major step that you can do to detoxify your body without changing your diet. Now, will it be easier if you change your diet? Yes. Will you want to change your diet when you're done? Probably. But again, it's a maintenance process. And so, there's the idealistic, I was going to go to a spa. They'd be, I'd be drinking juice only. We were doing massages, colonic massages. We were doing colonics, meditation, yoga, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is great, but it isn't going to happen in 3 days if those are the only things that you're concentrating on for 3 days. So you always have choice as to what am I willing to do? And again, I'm going to put it out there for those of you that aren't willing to commit to a certain dietary changes for a long period of time, start here because it also will motivate you. So I want to talk about, so we covered that doesn't hurt, but let me give you my my 2 cents. So for someone who has been doing acupuncture for 20 years and how I describe needles for people that may be afraid of needles is that when, if you have a place that's sensitive, and each acupuncturist has different energy and they all needle differently, but when the needle goes in, if it's a place that has stuck chi, then that initial shock of a needle into the point will feel like a little pinprick, and then it'll go away. It dissipates very quickly. So it's just a second. So the only thing that I would say about like the comfort or discomfort, when you put, what's it called? The specter?
The speculum. It's a little
speculum.
tube.
Okay. But what's the muscle in the anus?
The rectum.
The rectum. What's the muscle?
That's your rectum muscle.
Right, but there's
the sphincter.
Yeah, there's a sphincter. That's what I was looking for. Okay, the sphincter. All right. So there's a point in which you have to pass through that, and that's the only sort of not comfortable place, but it's literally seconds that when you pass through, it's done. So does it feel like amazing? You're like, oh my God, this feels great. No, that's not how it goes. But it doesn't hurt. It does not hurt. It may be slightly uncomfortable because you're not used to sticking something up that hole. All right. But again, if you're relaxed and you breathe, it's over very, very quickly, and then it's fine. Now, some other things about the process that I will say from my experience, we have gas, and sometimes you can breathe through gas bubbles, and sometimes your body needs to release, and it's that feeling like you want to push. So I'm not going to say that you just hook up the tube and then you're done. Right. You are laying on the table. And again, none of this hurts, but there is a relationship with your colon and being able to be in your body enough to read and know when it feels like something's moving. I know our last session, which was yesterday, I could feel my colon because I had taken a Dr. Schultz herb the night before. So my colon was very active and I could feel it wanting to move something. And it feels a little bit like a cramping. It didn't hurt. It just was uncomfortable, but it was my body saying my body wants to release something, and it did. So I had a decent release yesterday. But again, all this to say that none of it hurts. None of it is super uncomfortable, meaning like you want to run off the table or cry or, like it is, you are dumping out what's in your colon. So it does not hurt. But it is a process, and I also agree, so one of your questions is it embarrassing? Well, that depends on what what embarrasses you. The fact that you need one, the fact that someone's going to see your butt for a half a second, that there's a tube going up your butt. I mean, I don't know. I'm the person who says, if this is a tool to prevent cancer, to prevent toxicity load and all of the symptoms that would come from that, so that you have something, why not do this now than to be taken out and put on your back because you didn't listen or take care of your body or balance it out in some way like this, to then when you need this. I mean, is not pooping comfortable? Is it embarrassing to be constipated? I don't know. So what do you tell people when they ask, is it embarrassing?
I always tell people it's not embarrassing. I think what happens with colon hydrotherapy or colonics is people hear the word and all of a sudden some sort of visual comes up in their mind that scares them. And I think that's a different visual for everyone. I know I've talked to people and they said, oh, I thought you were going to put a tube down my throat. No, the tube doesn't go down the throat. So everyone has a little bit different idea in their mind before they know what the process is. And it is a very discreet process where you are very respected. And it's literally 2 seconds where that tube goes in. Immediately you are draped with the hospital type gown. You're lying on your back. So that part is not embarrassing. I have had people come before and tell me, I do not want you to look at what comes out. I'm so embarrassed and I don't want to look either. And usually by the end of the session, those people are glued to watching because it's so fascinating what is coming out of their body. And how I see it is it's the same thing coming out of you, coming out of me, coming out of the Queen of England. It's kind of the human status quo there. And when I explain to people, yes, your poop is coming out. Yes, we can see it coming through the tube. But if you look a little closer and you start looking at the clues like, wow, there's a piece of zucchini that has one bite out of it that didn't even get chewed. And you're gassy all the time. I think we can connect those dots. And if you can start chewing better, you're probably going to have a lot less gas and bloating. So once I start just showing people what I'm observing and how I'm connecting it to their symptoms, to how they're eating, to what they're eating, all of a sudden it makes a lot of sense to people and they start thinking about it differently. And instead of being embarrassed, they start asking questions and they want to know more. And oh yeah, I do eat really fast. I eat in my car a lot because I'm commuting. And we start sort of putting together those puzzle pieces that are adding up to what's going on that they're trying to change. So it's, as I say, again, very discreet. You're covered. Everybody has the same parts. Everybody has the same materials coming out of them. And usually the people that are afraid that it's going to be embarrassing feel a lot less so, and maybe not at all after they come for a session.
Well, I know I am chewing my food much better now when you can identify the things I've had to eat because I didn't chew them well enough. And I'm a fast eater. And I think that's another like huge, like I think I roll my eyes. I don't mean to. And I know other people do when they say, oh, drink more water. You're not drinking, you're dehydrated. It's like, well, everyone's dehydrated. No, really. Like now I'm like, holy cow, I am so dehydrated. This has been a huge eye opener for me. And then the whole chewing. I mean, first of all, let's look at the chemicals that the brain secrete when we chew more, right? And how much less food people would probably eat if they actually chewed their food more than they do, and me included. And it's not that I'm an overeater, it's that I eat really fast. But I'm not chewing as much as I could be. And that has changed in the last couple days. So, because I really kind of thought about that. I'm like, these are really simple things that most people aren't doing, that if I told you to do this, you would be like, haha, yeah. And then you wouldn't do it because you would think it's not a big change. How could chewing my food really make such a big difference? And I'm here to tell you, with the tube stuck up my butt, a big difference from bloating, digestion, nutrient absorption. You need to chew your food more and just try it. Just try chewing your food more and see what happens. I mean, you can do that before you ever have a colonic. That's free. So just start that today. So, is it embarrassing? I don't know. At some point, I think you kind of got to get over it. I agree with you. I'm that weird person who I'm like, it's poop and I want it out and I don't care. And it is fascinating. And I love watching the things that come out of the tube. I'm like, because I want to see more. I want to know, I want to feel the results. It's instant gratification knowing that was in me and now it's out of me. Mm-hmm. And that psychologically, if nothing else, feels better, feels healthier.
Yes. And can I touch upon the chewing of the food? That is one of the most life-changing things people can do. I always say there's 3 life-changing things that you can do that don't cost anything. They're chewing your food, getting hydrated, drinking water, and breathing more deeply. And what people don't realize is in your saliva, you have a lot of enzymes that start immediately breaking down the food if you chew it really well. And once you start breaking down the sugars and starches right in the mouth, when the food is mixing with the saliva, and if you chew it until it's a creamy consistency, that is just a gift to your stomach and also to your pancreas. If you don't do that, the food is kind of going really quickly into the stomach, and then your pancreas actually has to start secreting more enzymes and working overtime to try to break down the food. Also, your stomach doesn't have teeth. If you swallow a piece of zucchini whole, it is not going to break down really. It's just going to be kind of trudging through your digestive system, maybe fermenting, breaking down, making more gas. So it's just like a chain reaction that starts happening of not optimal digestion that's happening. And yes, and the hydration, same thing. I think people always ask me like, oh, what do you think about coffee? I drink coffee. I love coffee myself. But the thing with coffee is you have to get hydrated. I read something that said every cup of coffee that you drink 3 glasses of water to every 1 cup to stay hydrated. And I have people come in that are coffee drinkers that their colons are dry as a bone. I have other people come in that are coffee drinkers and really, really, really good about their water. And they have amazing colonics. They don't have a lot of dry stool because they're really, really making sure they get that water in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I knew 3 cups of water to 1 cup of coffee. It's probably the same, if not more, for wine. So I knew that I wasn't doing that. And now I'm really seeing that I wasn't doing that. So I know what I'm doing now. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop drinking wine. It just means I'm going to take a little pause and I'm going to drink a heck of a lot more water. So I want to quickly burn through some of the other frequently asked questions. I wanted to, it was hard for me on the table, said, hey, can you come on my podcast? And Cindy was like, sure. And then I said, can we talk about coffee enemas? Can we talk about enemas? And she's like, oh yeah. And I said, where do you stand on that? And she's like, well, I've been on both sides of the fence. And so this is why this is part 1 of 2, because as you can tell, this is not like we have scratched the surface of this conversation of detoxification, of things that you've heard to do and not do. And I'm really interested in learning what you've learned on both sides of the spectrum, if you will, for coffee enemas. And we'll get to that in the next show. So if you're listening to this now, our next episode is going to be about coffee enemas mostly, and the comparison to colonics, and also just enemas in general that you can do for yourself. All right. So do we think that what equipment is used? I mean, is that worth talking about for people I don't know how many of you care that much about what equipment is used, but I know it's on your frequently asked questions.
Yeah, there are different types of colonics that you can get and different types of equipment. There are 2 systems, the open system and the closed system. The equipment that I use is part of what's known as the closed system. And really what that means is that all of the waste, all of the odor is contained in tubing. And the instrumentation that we use is FDA approved. It's a class 2 medical device. Everything is plumbed into the sewer system. So the waste comes out, and just like when you flush the toilet, it's gone forever into the sewage system. I like the closed system because everything is contained, and that feels like the most sanitary to me. I know the other system, the open system, is a sort of hybrid of a bathtub and toilet that one sits in, and the client administers their own water, and then the waste comes out. It's sort of open to the air. And I know some people do prefer that system. It just sort of depends. It's a personal thing. For people who are elderly, who don't have good bowel retention, maybe the open system would be a better and easier system to use. I haven't tried it myself. I probably should. I just really like the closed system and find that it works really well.
Do colon hydrotherapists administer the open system?
You would go to a colon hydrotherapist to be sort of introduced to it. Then you would be in the room by yourself with sort of a buzzer if you needed help, but you do it yourself. And with the closed system that I do, I'm in the room the whole time. I'm assisting. I am putting the water in and releasing it, operating the instrument. And in non-COVID social distancing times, I'm usually doing some more massage. And now with the social distancing, I'm having someone use a little vibrating massager on their tummy if they like to. So.
Okay, well, I learned something. I mean, I didn't realize, because I've only worked with you and some other person, and you both have the same machine or a similar machine.
There's other ones too. Like I had a colonic somewhere, and it was a closed system, but it was basically a big water tank that was up high, and then an opaque tube that you couldn't see anything. So it felt like material was coming out, but I didn't know for sure if it was, and I couldn't see what was coming out. So for me, that didn't feel as satisfying as seeing
watching it.
Yeah, exactly. And what I like about our equipment too is you can regulate the temperature, so you can keep a consistent warm body temperature throughout the session, which is really nice too.
Yeah, it's so body temperature that I didn't know if we were on a full or release the other day. I'm like, we on a fill? And you're like, we're on a fill. I'm like, oh, okay. Because you can't feel it until it gets higher in the colon, where you're not used to having, I mean, for me, I could feel it when I was allowing it in and working through any air bubbles, and I didn't need to release, like taking a really good fill. I could feel just the water in me, but it wasn't, it might have been a little bit kind of cooler, but it wasn't cold. It wasn't hot. It's not shocking. It's very soothing. So could we just talk about quickly, if someone was listening to this and they're currently searching for a colon hydrotherapist near them, what is this? I mean, it's a closed system that they're looking for. And what's this machine? Do they want to ask for something specifically? I want them to have this machine.
Yeah, the machine is called the Hydrosands. And also what I love about it is we can control the pressure. And that's something that is very, very gentle. The water is not whooshed into the body, which a lot of people think it is. It's very gentle as it goes into the body. And that's why you don't really feel it sometimes. And everybody's body temperature is a little bit different. So if you come again and you're like, oh, the water's a little bit cool, let me know. I can raise the temperature a little bit. So it really matches exactly with your body temperature and it's the most comfortable.
Well, so far I've never noticed the water temperature. So I think it's perfect. Now, can we spell is it Hydrosands with an S, N-S, or is there a D in there?
It's HYDRO-SANS.
Okay. I prefer that you all look for that because it's a pleasant experience. I think you will enjoy watching the release that you're doing. I think that is instant gratification psychologically and emotionally for you, knowing that it's leaving and you feel good about what you're getting rid of. So a couple more questions before we conclude today's episode and move to the next one on coffee enemas. What we already kind of covered what someone needs to prepare in a theoretical sense, but let's do it in a more specific sense. So again, if you're someone who, after listening to this, has already booked your appointment for tomorrow, which would have been me, by the way, which is totally me. For a colon hydrotherapist, what are some of the easy steps, and then the more let's do the basic and then the extensive.
Okay, so the very, very basic would be the person who wants to come in. They are just stuck or they just want to feel better, but they really don't have time or energy to do anything different with their diet. I would say the very basics would be don't have white wine the night before you come. Don't have soda or bubbly water. You want to make sure the gas is on the low side. That will help. And just drink 8 glasses of water that day before. It is not a one size fits all. You don't have to do a specific prep. The more water you drink, definitely the more material you will see come out in the session. And if you're somebody who's really keen and you've got time and bandwidth to prepare, I would drink some lemon water every day with your 8 glasses of water. Maybe eat lighter, do some soups, some steamed vegetables, some smoothies. If you can add a green juice in every day, that's great. If you can do the apple a day, apples and beets, if you like them, help to loosen things up. But fresh fruits and vegetables are great. And if you're keen to take some herbs, you could do the Dr. Schultz intestinal formula number 1. That's
big fan of that. Big fan of intestinal cleanse.
I love his stuff. So that's all really helpful. And you don't have to do all of that or any of that. It's not one size fits all in terms of, you can only cleanse one way. There's so many different ways of cleansing. I have some people that are like, I cannot change my diet. I cannot stop drinking wine, but I can take Dr. Schultz and do some colonics, and that feels really, really good. And that works too. So you just have to figure out what you're able to do in this given moment. And maybe this summer you'll have more time to do more with the nutrition. But sometimes just starting and getting over that hump and getting unstuck can really start something good health-wise.
All right, you've given me a reason to add apples back into my diet. It's it goes in and out if I'm keto or if I'm, I don't eat, I fast. And so the apples, I would love to add apples back in. So that would be a good reason. I have on here that a lot of people ask you, is it safe? So let's talk about that.
That's a great question. People are concerned about different safety aspects, one of which is what type of tubing do you use? Is it disposable? Is it reusable? I use only one-time use disposable speculums. I think that's really important. I know there are places that use metal speculums that are sterilized. For me personally, I'm just feel safer with the disposables. Sometimes people will ask me, well, what about your friendly bacteria? Does it deplete the friendly bacteria? We always tell people after doing any sort of colon cleansing, take a probiotic with multiple strains of bacteria for 30 days afterwards. And a lot of times the reason people are so gassy and bloated is because they don't have the right bacteria to begin with. So those are a couple of the safety questions I get. Were you thinking of anything
I don't
else?
know. I guess I looked and I said, well, why
Okay.
wouldn't it be safe? But again, you have it here, and maybe someone out there is thinking that it wouldn't be me. Because again, I've had it one time before.
Yeah.
And again, so I'm thinking, well, how is it unsafe, I guess?
Yeah, those are the two general questions. Sometimes people are afraid, like, oh, can I go back to work afterwards? Is there a recovery time? What's going to happen to me? And basically, you can do anything after a colonic that you would do after a normal bowel movement. Go work out, go back to the office. There's no recovery time, so to speak.
Nope. All right. How long does it take?
Yeah, it takes 30 to 45 minutes in the actual colonic process. You'll come in, you'll fill out some paperwork. We'll discuss what you're trying to do, what you're hoping to achieve by being there. And then after the session, in that 30 to 45 minutes is a series of filling and releasing and filling and releasing many, many times. And after that's all done, you'll go and sit in the restroom for 5 or 10 minutes. Don't be in a rush. And you'll give yourself a full hour from start to finish with all of that.
All right. And then the final question on your frequently asked questions are, what should I do after a colon hydrotherapy session?
Yeah, that's also a good question. I'm glad I put that on there.
You're kind of smart, Cindy.
I would say two of the really key things after the session is the day of your session. Do not have alcohol. Do not have spicy food. It won't kill you, but it may make you feel bloated, and that's not pleasant. You'll want to eat something healthy, something easy to digest. If you can go vegetarian for the rest of the day, great. I like to do something like steamed rice, steamed vegetables. Some people are more in the mood for a juice or a smoothie. That's fine. Kind of listen to your body. I like the rice and vegetables and lentils because your colon is a hollow organ. And when we have release through the colon kind of wants to have some bulk in it. And I feel like that rice and lentils is a nice way to put bulk back in the colon. So, but it doesn't have to be that.
Okay. And then, of course, keep drinking your water.
Oh, that's the main thing. Yes. Don't stop for life.
I've done this fasting mimicking diet now 5 times, 6 times, and it's a whole different experience this time. But the water bottle that comes with it, I normally want to throw it out afterwards. I'm like, I have so many dang water bottles. But what I've noticed about it now, how committed I am, is I'm like, oh, I'm going to keep this water bottle on my desk because I drink a lot more water that way than just filling up a glass. I've infused lemon in there, and I've added some of my vitamins and minerals, like some mineral drops and even a little bit of zinc I put in the other day, and some fish oil and vitamin D. I just decided I'm going to get it all in there. I even have some vitamin C powder with collagen and zinc and other things. What else is in that? It's a vitamin C that I use, but I thought, I could even put that in there, and I could just slowly have my vitamins in that first round of water in the water bottle and then just keep filling it up. So I can't stress enough how I've been awakened literally to the fact that I need to chew my food better and drink way more water than I am. And especially if you are listening to my Something to Wine About podcast, I think I may start adding in the watch me drink 3 glasses of water for every glass of wine that I drink, or every sip of wine that I take, I need to drink a glass of water. I'm literally super committed now because the fact that this is taking longer than I thought it would for me to release it's very humbling. It's very humbling how dehydrated I am and how I thought that that I would have a quicker release. But no judgment, no shame. It's all about the health process. I am helping my body right now, and I really appreciate it. And I hope that today has really moved the needle for all of you to look at this as whether it be for you or someone you know. So if there's someone that you know who you think really would benefit because they have digestive issues or chronic symptoms of degeneration in their body, whatever it may be, digestive related, or they have cancer, or we're going to talk about coffee enemas on our next episode and a little bit more about the detoxification process of the whole body. But I wanted to make sure that you were a little bit more convinced and possibly excited about getting a tube stuck up your butt and sucking out all of the dry feces and non-released fecal tissue that you have stuck to your colon so you can feel amazing, energized, and we can get out the toxins, because if you've never had this, your pipes have never been truly cleaned. Not to mention, I think it will really wake people up to how dehydrated they really are. And again, everybody, every process in your body happens through water. And if you cannot fight disease, you cannot lose fat, you cannot convert, muscle and build muscle properly. Your immune system needs water. We need to be hydrated. And who knew I was going to figure that one out? I mean, in terms of my own self-reflection of how dehydrated I am through this process. So Cindy, let's tell everybody, for those of you that live in the Los Angeles area or or let's say Southern California, and you're willing to maybe drive a little bit more than you are, let's tell them your website, where you're located.
Sure. I am on the web. I'm at vitalityflow.com, all one word. And I'm located in Culver City near Sony Studios, 4232 Overland Avenue. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to answer them. And if you or someone you know is full of it, I can help.
If you or someone you know is full of shit, please come in. She can help. So let's give them your email address. I'll have all these things in the show notes also. Your email address?
It's kind of long. It's Cindy Folsom at vitalityflow.com, CINDYFULSOM as in Mary at vitalityflow.com.
So email, if you're going to email Cindy, put in the subject line, heard you on JJ's show, so that she knows where this is coming from. And of course, if you're in the local area, you can even, I didn't contact Cindy before I booked with her. I just booked online. She's got a great online booking system. I registered myself as a new patient. I bought my first session, and then I came in. And then after that, I booked myself again as a returning patient. And there you go. So if you're local, you can just go ahead and book a session with her, or 3. Again, I would just jump to 3. I know you may want to try it out, and maybe you will. You can pay for the 1 and then come in and then make it the 3-pack, and she'll do the difference there, because you get a little bit of a break when you buy 3. But if you're not in the LA area and you want to ask Cindy's opinion about something, reach out to her. I would just be respectful of that. She, if a lot of you start asking questions, she needs to work too. So, so maybe she'll, if you want any kind of other consultation, maybe she can also work with you nutritionally to help you get prepared before you find someone, or I'm sure she is able to be hired to help you find the right person in your area. So please reach out to her. And all the links are in the show notes, her email address, her phone number, and her website. Cindy, thank you for today's show. I look forward to talking to you more on our next show.
Thank you so much. It was great to be on your show.